All right, if you've watched any of my more recent videos, this one is going to have almost nothing to do with it, except kind of it does, because it's talking about the beauty of things in the past, the things that we've lost that we really shouldn't have. Why did we lose them? That's the question I want in your head as we watch this video on the irreplicable beauty of vintage anime.
You know, it's nothing short of a beautiful wonder to believe that these few frames would give birth to all of this.
Okay, so obviously because you watched that, you're canceled now. That was definitely racist. So I apologize for that. I should have screened this video. That should have been censored. Art is not art. It is political violence. Okay, so just again, we can kind of stop on any one of those frames, and I could pretty much say, and it hurts to say it because I do appreciate the people that are in the industry now, but every single one of those frames is better than anything made today. I mean, it hurts to say that because, again, I know the people in the industry are working very hard and are passionate, but stuff was just better then. And this isn't even like my generation. Like, let's just again. Like, does this to me has more interest. This to me has just more cool stuff going on than normal anime that I would see today. This looks pretty good. God, that looks
Dude,
good.
what is it about older anime that looks so nice?
For real,
I think it
right?
makes the soft, fuzzy lines, the monochromatic color schemes, and the beautiful watercolor backgrounds. Tell me you don't want to live there. You're lying.
For
You're
real.
lying. The thing that makes my brain explode with serotonin is easily the bloom. Oh my god, that grainy, blown out haze. It's easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much the sort of like the cyberpunk aesthetic that I think we just completely can't stop loving. It's insane. And it just really does encapsulate it like way better than even like a lot of Western media does. The only thing that really kind of like comes close to it is Blade Runner, which is, you know, like a visual masterpiece of like a once in a generation, maybe once in like a century achievement that just kind of happens almost accidentally. I don't want to say it was accidental that these things happen, but the fact that all of these pieces lined up to produce this gigantic masterpiece is almost like miraculous. It's almost accidental because it's not something like a book or even like a painting or something like that where one person has a vision and they can execute it to an exacting degree of like, this is exactly what I want it to be. And as long as it is within my skill set of ability, I can make it happen that way. And as long as I stick to my guns, it will be what I want it to be. Movies are not that. Movies cannot be that. TV shows are the same. They are the product of an enormous amount of sources combining together. Sometimes you get something like Blade Runner, which is greater than the sum of its parts. Most of the time, you don't. Most of the time, you get something where people are putting things together and there are cool elements. Some things are good, some things are bad. You know, you have an actor that can't pull their weight, or you have an actor that's really good, but the script isn't that perfect, or the director is a little, you know, just samey, plainy, nothing really exciting happening. The story can be good, the story can be bad, the story blah 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 blah. You get what I'm saying. All of these things to make a great movie happen, they happen in a lot of ways because of just like accidental miracles. If they come together and they make something like really spectacular that just rearranges your sense of aesthetics forever, like Blade Runner did for I think a lot of people, it's because of some just crazy circumstances. And then, you know, anime being a little bit more tightly controlled can replicate it better than most movies can. This is why you get like, I'm again, like, other than Blade Runner, the best cyberpunk is all anime. You know, it's all anime, it's all manga.
Easily the warmest and most aesthetic part of VHS anime. There's something completely irreplaceable about the eons of blood, sweat, and tears of traditional style animation. I mean, I'm really trying to stay objective when I define my thesis here, but god damn, I mean, look at that. To me, this is the zenith of visual media. There's just something about it that makes me stare slack-jawed at my screen in complete awe. Hi, I'm Chimoku-chan. And I haven't watched an anime since Obama's second term. So what exactly makes an anime vintage? Well, my loose definition is that any anime that wasn't made completely digitally would be considered vintage.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. I think that is probably the best definition of it. I don't know if I would even use the term vintage. Yeah, you just say like, okay, this is drawn anime as opposed to digital anime. It doesn't have to be vintage. We could make, you know, stuff today. Like I want to say most of the Studio Ghibli stuff is that. And it seems like it looks like it. It feels like this older style that has just been abandoned because it is like way more labor intensive. It's much more difficult. And I would also say it's probably more like skill based. You can't outsource a lot of this stuff and you can't use a lot of the digital tools that make things easier. But their ease of use actually makes this production of it kind of not worse, but the ease of doing it means that you're not going to be as particular. You're not going to be as careful because it's like instead of drawing out a full giant page of animation, all this kind of stuff that's going to take, I don't know, 5-10 minutes, you can just, Control Z. Oop, no, I don't like that line. Boom, I'm just gonna pop it back. And it's essentially everything's like a loose sketch if you're doing it digitally. It becomes a lot easier to fix mistakes, and therefore you're not trying to anticipate where you might make a mistake. And therefore, you get into this thing where you're going to probably actually end up making more mistakes unintentionally, because the intentionality is missing from the process of the production.
Let me just show you an example. Yeah. Look, if it starts with this logo, you know you're about to watch a certified hood classic. Easily my favorite era that anime ever went through would probably be the Tradigital era. This term was coined by Judith Moncrief and later popularized by Jeffrey Katzenberg. He was the CEO of some company, I don't remember. The methodology applied in Tradigital animation is that cells are individually inked, painted, and photographed.
Damn. Are you kidding me? Okay.
Is that
Look at
cells
this.
are individually
Like, I mean, that literally, like, this sketch page looks better than most modern art. Like, I would pay money for that. If you were to give me, like, if you were to show me a picture that's been, like, a painting that's worth $100 million, I'd go, I wouldn't pay 2 cents for that. This, I would be like, oh, God, I would pay some money for that.
inked, painted.
Okay, this. Look at that. That looks good. I'm just watching, what is it, Star Trek The Next Generation? And I'm like, the first season, which is like kind of, in a lot of ways, it's like the weakest season, but it does have this just like intense 80s majesty about it in terms of like the visuals outside of like, when it's just spaceships and space stations and planets and this kind of stuff. It's like stuff just looks crazy good. Because the person who was making like the Enterprise ship was just had to be like a lunatic to make it the way that they did. In the same way that, the person who's painting these little dots and doing this stuff has to be a lunatic. Like the only way they were able to survive in this industry is that they were so insanely obsessed with aesthetics and drawing and art that it was the only possible avenue for them to survive in life was to do this, even if like the way of doing it was so insanely grueling and difficult. It didn't matter. They were going to push through blood, sweat, tears, crawl over broken glass to just draw another picture. That's the type of people that were attracted to, you know, this era. Those are the only people that, you know, were in the industry, because everybody else was like, no, I'm not doing this. No, this is so hard. This is so difficult. So you had just complete psychotic lunatic artists employed at like every level. That was it.
And photographed atop a background. And its result is something almost magical.
Yeah. Come on.
A lot of people bring up Akira in this regard, as the film's process is entirely watchable as a documentary. But an example I'd rather use is one of Lupin III. I love Lupin! All of me and my homies fucking love Lupin! The movie that does best what I'm talking about is 1987's The Fuma Conspiracy. There's so many shots that I can name that I think are gorgeous, and they make my limbic system light up like a Christmas tree. The movie has the widest color palette, like, ever. Outdoor scenes are airy and warm, and tense indoor shots have the most bleak and oppressive color harmonies known to man. And funnily enough, I actually really enjoy the glow that a tape's natural aging gives to animation. I find that these flaws give a lot of character to a film or a show, specifically in the line quality and colors. And chromatic aberration may be an aesthetic choice now, but back then it was just a limitation of the medium. And I'm biting my fucking knuckle trying to stop talking about the color bleed and how good it looks under direct light. God! That being said, there are
That is an interesting one, where again, it's like, you know, it's just a miracle of the time. It's just something that is, it's not about the actual, it's a miracle. It's one of those things that is accidentally good. And the thing is, I guarantee people were aware of this limitation. They were aware of it and they played into it, which is why it looks good as opposed to the difference. Like, you can have a limitation and it can hold you back. It can be something where you go, oh, this looks like crap. In the same way that, like, you look at the old NES games and you'd go, wow, why is the soundtrack so good? Why are the themes for Zelda and Mario, you know, so iconic? They stick in your head immediately. They're super recognizable. It's because of the technical limitations. They were like, okay, the only thing that we can do here is like a melody. That's it. That's all we've got room for on this cartridge. We don't have the memory to do anything else. Okay, so we have to do that. That is turning a limitation into a strength. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know anyone who's did traditional animation back in the day in, you know, 1980s Japan. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I would imagine they were aware of this limitation. They were aware what was going to happen when things were transferred over to tape. And they go, okay, how can we use this to our advantage? How can we make it so that this looks good as opposed to bad? Because it just makes sense that they would do that.
A lot of passion projects out there right now, specifically restoring older media with 4K scans of its 35mm film. What immediately comes to mind for me is Patilro's Stardust Project and Kaneko Video's achievement at preserving the film. They've done a fantastic job of not only scanning it at such a lossless quality, but even revising the English sub, making this an extremely easy watch, which can't be said for every anime at this age. I think it'd be a crime not to speak in brief about the vaporwave movement and its children, like VHS pop and city pop. The medium saturated with graphics of girls and 80s anime. Like Sailor Moon and city pop are just inseparable. It's law by this point. And I must admit, I'm a victim to the craze. I've got extremely fond memories of watching old side videos that would play clips of Cowboy Bebop. And now to me, the two are kind of married. It fits perfectly with the aesthetic, and it's hard to articulate, but it's kind of got Toonami vibes. I'm sure you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Saib? Shit. And I really do owe it to those who made these music videos with classic anime. The marriage of audio and visual is really elemental, and it's one of the best synergies I've ever seen. It's actually watching these videos again that spurred on this video idea. I wouldn't have fallen in love the way I had it not been for them. So, if you're out there, guys, thank you. So, do I believe that this era of anime is the superior art form? Something indomitable and we've peaked as artists? No, not necessarily. But anime
Yeah, not necessarily is basically saying yes, but doesn't have to be.
Anime created from the 1950s all the way up to the 1990s demands we take a look back at it, as we're probably never going to see something like that again. And
Okay.
I have a confession to make. I don't think we should ever go back to tradigital animation. Even after I've spent so long praising it, I've got to dash all my hopes of it ever returning for one simple statement. Animating is hard.
Yeah.
And
I mean, this is what I was saying. I mean, the only people that were in that game were the people who could hack it, and the only people that could hack it were, again, like just lunatics. They were like complete crazy people that could only hack it because they were obsessed about it, to the point where, you know, the rest of their lives was probably garbage. And the creative process of them, you know, drawing their stuff was the moment of abject joy in their daily lives. That was it. Everything else was terrible. This is the thing that they wanted to do, so they wanted to do it as much as they possibly could. And those are the only people that were in the industry. I could be wrong, but I'm not.
I mean, really hard. The reason the industry was able to make the jump was due to the improvement of technology. As computers got faster, they also got cheaper, but the labor never got any less intensive. And the workload wasn't the only thing to stay the same either. Animators overseas can expect about $2 per frame of animation. That's huge earnings if you were a computer, but as someone who's slaving away at 100 frames a day, it's not adding up to much. At least, not proportional to the work you're doing. I found a video a while ago that was tagged as unintentional ASMR. It's a mini doc about Studio Trigger's development on Little Witch Academia, and for the first few minutes, I completely understand what the poster meant. This is an incredibly quiet, studious, and cozy environment, and it feels good. But if you listen to what the people behind the desks are saying, your heart would immediately sink.
全然ダメだ僕ありますねこうずっと長く考えて書いたやつとかを吉谷さんが修正する時とかは
他の作品とかだとやっぱ時間がなくて
トータルで1週間とか
Yeah.
何秒のカットでしたっけ4秒12ですねバーンってバーンってそう
Yeah.
報われてほしいですね
It's just not fair. These guys are making some of the best in the field, and they're treated like dirt. And if this is happening with Studio Trigger, what's happening to the little guys? I don't know. It's food for thought. The documentary closes out with director Yo Yoshinari being asked of what he thinks of the new animators, the people he's been working with for such a long time now. Does he like them?
そうですねもうちょっと付き合い長くならないとあれかなまだちょっと若干交流不足というか絵でしかコミュニケーション取ってないので
I think
Yeah, I mean, the other side of that is also that there is just a difference in work culture in terms of like the transmission of craftsmanship in Japan. In Japan, it's normal for, I shouldn't say normal now, but it was for the vast majority of their entire aesthetic cultural history for someone to basically go, I'm in this profession. I'm apprenticing to, you know, like my father, my uncle, or somebody like that, and they are a carpenter. So at 12 years old, 10 years old, whatever, I'm going to be in the carpentry, you know, workshop with my father, my uncle, my brother, whatever. And they are just constant, like, you know, you're just there as a helper. You're there as an intern, and you're there absorbing the stuff. And usually there's like a lot of kind of, you know, you're going to be the, how can we describe this? You're going to be the shit heel. You're going to be the person that's basically just, you know, the gopher. You get all the crap jobs. You're there, and your time there sucks. And partially, you know, if you're going to be generous, you can say the reason they do that is to make sure that you're, you know, going to be disciplined enough. You're going to be willing to suffer the rough spots of, this job, because there's rough spots in any job. So they're kind of like, they're building up your tolerance for pain and suffering. But also, you're there and you're learning every part of the profession. And it's, again, normal for something like, okay, like you can't make the eggs. You can't make the omelet in like a sushi restaurant until you've been working in a sushi restaurant for like 10 years. Like, that's crazy. Like, to an American, to a Western mind, that kind of transmission of skills is absurd. It's insane. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, no. But that is the sort of cultural craftsmanship that Japan has had for, again, basically its entire artistic, aesthetic, craft history. And that's probably true for most of the West too, except the West got away from it much earlier, or, relatively, because industrialization hits, America, the West, much earlier in time. And therefore, we've lost a lot of craftsmanship. We've got a lot of people who, if they were to try to build a copy of the house that was made 100, 200 years ago, they simply wouldn't be able to do it. They'd be like, I have no idea how to do this, because the skill to do it takes an enormous amount of time to learn, and it takes probably like multiple generations of learning and skill and refinement. And that legacy of passing that craft on has, in a lot of ways, died out in a lot of fields. In Japan, it's basically, you're now seeing it. Like, the people who are the generational descendants of, bamboo carving masters that are like, yeah, we've been doing this for 9 generations. They're in like their 70s, 80s, 90s now. They're still doing their work. And they're like, okay, well, I want to pass this on. I want an apprentice. I want someone to carry on this legacy, be the next, holder of this workshop. But the people that are coming in are coming from a more Western mindset of, you want to have a job that makes you feel good. You want to have a job that kind of like, reinforces what you're doing. That's fun to have. And that's not what they grew up in. They're 80, 90 years old. They can't learn this new stuff. Like, the people that can are strange anomalies. And I would imagine this guy came up in that era where I would be unsurprised if this guy was like physically smacked around by his senpais, by the people who were, his mentors. I would be unsurprised if he had, gotten a couple, whacks on the head, like, what the hell are you doing, you dumbass? Because that is, in a lot of ways, the culture. And, we can certainly say that's not, good, that's not necessary. You didn't need to do that to pass on these lessons, but it is part of the stuff. And to then try to, completely unlearn that and go forward in a totally different direction with these new younger people is very weird. So again, when he's saying, I need to interact with them more, it's like, yeah, it's because the way they interact is purely through their work, and the way that they interact with each other is therefore only about the work. And therefore it takes a lot longer to figure out, that person through the lens purely of their drawings. So it's like, yeah, it's understandable to say, we're not going to move you up until you've been around and doing this exact same thing for 10 plus years. Because that's the amount of time necessary for us to figure out who you are as a person through, just communicating through your drawings, as opposed to, talking to you and that kind of stuff. And it's difficult to say whether or not it's better or worse. It's certainly different, and obviously it's worse in the sense of this style of craftsmanship, passing down the legacy of this is basically dying out. And, you know, it sucks that the craft is kind of changing, dying out, maybe. It's, you know, it's not good. Now, again, it's not to say that anime is dying out. Anime is, you know, huge. But this old-timey style of, you know, we really kind of only want the people that are brutally obsessives, that, you know, drawing is their only purpose and joy in life, or, you know, it's their greatest ecstasy. That's gone. Now everyone kind of wants to be like a, you know, an artist and that type of stuff. And those people that, you know, just want to be artists because, you know, they're watching cool documentaries about it. They're like, oh yeah, we'd love to make a TV show or something like that. Yeah, that, like, get famous for that kind of stuff. They are not the people that are going to respond well to crazy hours and insane deadlines and, you know, like, brutal conditions. It's just not, they're not cut out for it.
絵でしかコミュニケーション取ってないので
I think that clip speaks entirely for itself. I'm sure by now it's obvious that I detest the work culture of modern anime, solely for the stress upon the working class to create it. I think modern anime has a bright future in front of it, and I certainly don't think it's going anywhere. But I'm hoping that the work ethic, along with traditional anime, can live as a relic of the past. And one of these we can look upon more fondly than the other. So, to all the countless years of work and those timeless classics, I love you. You're gorgeous, and I can think of no more a poetic and beautiful end for you. Thank you.
Yeah.